Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the channel Tech with KG. Today we're going to go through my Sony A80J and A90J preferred settings. Now this is 100% through the menu itself. It's pretty easy to do. You just press menu, go to settings, and just kind of copy these settings and see if you like them. If you don't, that's okay. I actually recommend you should change a few to your liking. A lot of this is going to be preference based, especially the reality creation portion, and I will also do a separate video on reality creation later on. Alright, so first let's take a look at some of the out of the box picture settings. So we have Vivid, Standard, Cinema, IMAX Enhanced, and Custom. We're going to be messing with the custom profile on this video, and I'm going to show you exactly what settings I personally use. Now I gotta say, IMAX Enhanced out of the box looks absolutely great, and it is a setting that I definitely used from time to time for certain movies. Let me take you through my settings one by one. Brightness, we are wanting to set to max. You're not going to want to change this typically unless you're on SDR, then you can set the brightness a little bit lower. But we're talking HDR here, I want max brightness. Next is contrast. By default, this is at around 90. You could actually raise this to 93 and be just fine. Gamma, you're going to want to keep this at 0 on HDR and SDR. Though this is also just a personal preference thing, you can change it if you want. HDR tone mapping is the same thing. You want to make sure you set this to your personal preference. I personally like to use gradation preferred. I think that gradation preferred is just a really good tone mapping method. In every use case, I use gradation preferred for my HDR tone mapping. Next, we go to black level. You're going to want to keep this at 50. You never want to raise this. Now, those that own an A90J understand that the black level for near blacks happens to be more raised than the A80J. In my opinion, when I saw them side by side, this is what I observed. I used black level at 49 on the A90J, and this fixed most of the problems, though I did run into the occasional black crush from time to time, but it was kind of rare. But I do like 49 on the A90J. On the A80J, I keep it at 50. Let's go on to black adjust. Now this is a very preference based setting as well. You're going to either like it or you're not going to like it, and it might depend on the kind of content you're watching. If you want to add some artificial increased depth, black adjust can really do this. So if you set black adjust, I suggest putting black adjust on medium. It's just a setting that I personally like to use, and I know a lot of people say don't use it, but I think that is definitely a good setting and I use it all the time. Same thing with advanced contrast enhancer. This is a setting that a lot of people recommend turning off, but I actually like putting it on medium. I found that on high it is a little bit too much and it's adding a little boost to average picture level, and I'm not wanting to do that. So I keep my advanced contrast enhancer at medium. I think this is a really good sweet spot for advanced contrast enhancer. Peak luminance is something that I personally set to high. I think for HDR, you definitely want to have it at high. And even on SDR, I have it on high. Though on SDR, you can lower it. I understand a lot of people really like to watch SDR at lower brightnesses, which is understandable. So peak luminance is going to be a preference based thing. I like to keep peak luminance at high. Moving on to clarity, we're going to talk about sharpness. This is something that you absolutely want to leave at 50, and you never want to lower it, and you never want to really raise it. So unlike other TVs where you want to drop the sharpness to 0, on Sony TVs you like to leave the sharpness at default 50. Reality creation is a preference-based thing here. Now, I'm going to make a separate video on reality creation, which I expect to be out pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. But basically, I like to keep reality creation at around 20, and I set it to either auto or manual. Sometimes I'll have it on auto. I think that the TV does a good job of detecting reality creation. If I set it to manual, I'll usually crank up reality creation to about 50 on certain content that I want to watch. It's really content dependent. And honestly, some games I have it at 50 and it looks incredible. And some games I have it at 20 and it just adds a little bit of extra boost to it. It's very subtle at 20, but it is something that does help with the clarity. You won't notice it unless you go looking for it, but if you set it to 50, it's definitely going to be more noticeable, though it's going to start to be a little artificial from there. So it's going to kind of depend on what you want. So just play around with reality creation. I really think it is a powerful and awesome tool, and I will get in depth with it in another video, so stay tuned. The noise reduction features, I set both of these to auto. I really think that the Sony processor does a really good job of detecting this and eliminating it if it needs to. So those of you that really want to get rid of that film grain, I think this is a good way to do it. This also helps with lower resolution content. It really cleans it up a lot. And, sometimes it can look a little artificial, but I think that using the digital noise reduction and the random noise reduction features are actually pretty good on this TV. So I keep them both on auto. Though, if you don't want to add anything extra to the picture, keep these off. Smooth gradation is something that I use on low. I think that it does a really good job of eliminating the banding. If you're ever in a situation where you see more banding, or if you're playing 120 hertz games, you're going to want to set smooth gradation to about medium or high. And this is something that you're going to want to do for games that are 120 hertz. You're going to want smooth gradation at high to get rid of some of that banding in the sky. That's something you might have to do, but I use smooth gradation on low. Moving on to color, I have my color at 50 and my hue is at 0. The color temperature is expert 1, and I do use live color. I use live color on medium. I think that medium is a great setting, and I feel like using live color on medium gets it close to the saturation of an LGC1. Live color on high feels like Samsung colors in my opinion. I think it's very saturated. A lot of people might want to use this, so definitely try it on high. I do use high sometimes for certain content, but for the most part, I keep live color on medium. I think it's a really nice feature, and it does give the color a little bit more pop. And live color on low is very subtle, and I don't really notice a huge difference between low and off. So I like to use medium personally. I'm not going to get into motion settings because this is all preference based, and motion is just kind of is, and motion really is what it is. Some people like more soap opera effect, and some people like less soap opera effect, or none at all. So it's gonna depend on what you do. So that's why I'm not going to cover motion in this settings video. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Please hit the like button if you did enjoy this video. Stay tuned for the reality creation video. If you want to see more videos on Sony TVs or any other TVs in general, check out the videos at the end of this one. And be sure to subscribe for more TV content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.